The morning sunlight had just appeared on the horizon when Elyas, living in a shelter for war veterans, began his exercise routine. He had once been captured as a prisoner of war and suffered from severe PTSD. Although he had returned, fearing another attack. Worse yet, under intense pressure, Elyas started experiencing hallucinations. Despite his neighbors moving out a week ago, he still heard their voices every night and even drilled holes in the wall to observe them. The shelter's manager, unable to tolerate his behavior any longer, advised him to seek psychological treatment. To see Elyas suffer any longer, kindly introduced him to a job, protecting a Middle Eastern family living in a villa. Initially, Elyas intended to decline, but with nowhere else to go, he reluctantly accepted. The next morning, Elyas arrived at the villa and stood at the gate with 3 other guards. Mr. Jamal approached, walking steadily, and introduced the people they were to protect, doing his job as a protector. Shortly after, the team leader took Elyas to his room and installed software on his phone to connect with the villa's surveillance system, enabling him to monitor every corner of the property effortlessly. Thus, Elyas officially began his career as truly an eye-opener, even for someone like Elyas, who found himself momentarily captivated by the scene as Amina swam gracefully. Not long after, Amina unexpectedly approached Elyas, leading him to the kitchen and assigning him the responsibility of protecting Noor. However, it was clear that Noor was not an easy person to deal with. As soon as Amina left, Noor took some meat to feed the black dog in the villa. The harmonious image warmed Elyas's heart, making him realize Noor truly. Elyas suddenly noticed 2 other bodyguards whispering something. Elyas immediately called Yan. When Yan admitted he voiced his concern that they might be plotting something, Yan, however, warned Elyas not to act recklessly, reminding him that this was not a battlefield and that he should contact the police if anything went wrong. The suspicious events didn't stop there. The next day, while Elyas went outside to receive a delivery, Noor unexpectedly rode her bicycle out of the villa. Both immediately noticed 2 mysterious men on a motorcycle nearby, closing in on Noor. Sensing danger, Elyas knelt on one knee, his right hand reaching behind his back, pretending as if he was about to. He refrained from pressing for answers and sought out the head of security. Men wouldn't let this go and that they needed to be prepared. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Elyas stepped outside for a smoke to relax and coincidentally saw Noor stargazing alone. Perhaps out of gratitude for his actions earlier that day or simply because she had been lonely for too long, Noor opened up to Elyas, sharing her observations about the stars. Unexpectedly, this struck a chord with Elyas. As a former paratrooper with a deep passion for astronomy, he made a few adjustments to the telescope and identified several additional constellations. Earning Noor's admiration, the distance between Elyas and Noor gradually narrowed. But the next morning, Amina, however, Jamal immediately refused, warning Amina that their situation was far from ordinary. Being to have a bodyguard accompany them, Noor chimed in as well, desperately begging Jamal for this small taste of freedom. She even cast a veiled criticism, accusing Jamal of instructing Elyas to stay close and protect them at all costs. As they were preparing to leave, the head of security unexpectedly approached Elyas, questioning why he had provided Noor outside. These clear images left Elyas stunned. Why was his memory so unreliable? Could it be that he was experiencing hallucinations again? Fearful of the consequences if his mental instability were discovered, Elyas focused on his mission despite the gnawing doubts in his mind. Sitting in the car, Noor gazed out the window, her eyes filled with admiration for the young, free-spirited people outside. Amina couldn't help but feel heartbroken, realizing how much her daughter had suffered. Yet, she felt powerless, using this shopping trip as a small attempt to cover. Just as they were about to get into the car, Elyas suddenly spotted 2 men on motorcycles appearing out of nowhere. He instinctively drew his gun and remained on high alert. The 2 riders stopped right next to them, their diamond tattoos prominently displayed. Without hesitation, Elyas floored the gas pedal, speeding away at full throttle. The mysterious men gave chase, staying close behind. Amina panicked, mumbling repeatedly that they had been found. Thankfully, with his expert driving skills, Elyas managed to maneuver through a busy intersection, outpacing the pursuers and safely returning Amina and Noor to the villa. But Elyas had secretly contacted her brother Jamal and arranged for her and Noor to flee to France to seek political asylum. After hearing the full story, Elyas realized he had become entangled in a terrifying crisis. Furious, he stormed into Jamal's room, pointing his gun and demanding the truth. But before Jamal could answer, a bullet suddenly pierced through his head, killing him instantly. Gunfire erupted like a torrential downpour, forcing Elyas to duck behind a window for cover. He saw a large team of mercenaries breaking into the villa. The villa's guards tried to fight back but were no match for the heavily armed intruders and were swiftly overpowered. Regaining his composure, Elyas moved stealthily through the shadows, pulling out a folding knife. In one swift motion, he took down a mercenary and seized his rifle. Elyas immediately rushed to the scene, taking down the mercenary with a precise shot. Elyas's earpiece crackled with news that Noah had been captured. He instructed him from his elevated position. Elyas spotted the mercenaries restraining Noah. Grabbing a flagpole, Elyas crept, quickly neutralizing the threat and rescuing Noah. He ushered her into the car and sped away from the villa. As they entered the city, a gun emerged from the window of a nearby car. Panicked, Elyas reversed sharply. Elyas devised a plan. He stopped at a corner, waited for the enemy vehicle to pass, then eventually calming Elyas down. But Elyas wasn't willing to let the matter go. He suspected Yan's involvement and devised a trap to capture him. After subduing Yan, Elyas tied him to a plane's rotor to force a confession. However, Yan, also misled by the news report, believed Elyas, furious about his daughter's sequel health, was the perfect candidate. Seething with rage, Elyas fought, but the employer remained silent, only glancing at a camera in the corner of the room. Realizing their location had been compromised, he continued interrogating the man. As it operated with extreme secrecy, he revealed that the group supported Noah's father if they didn't comply. A single stab. Just then, two mercenaries arrived at their location. Yan, demonstrating his tactical skill, hid in the shadows and silently eliminated one with a knife. In a fierce hand-to-hand fight, he managed to defeat the other using a lamppost as a weapon. Despite their victory, Elyas knew France was no longer safe. They needed to get Amina and Noah out of the country immediately. Yan suggested a smuggler he knew who could help them cross into England, though the price would be steep. For Amina, however, money was no issue. Elyas opened his backpack, revealing a stash of cash and digital currencies. Jamal had prepared fake passports for them in advance, which allowed him to make a swift escape. As they traveled through the night toward the border, Elyas noticed an RV tailing them. Growing suspicious, he sped up and instructed Yan to discard their phones. The RV eventually overtook them and continued down the road, but Elyas remained on edge, wondering if he was being earlier without hesitation. Elyas slipped into the RV, pulling out a knife and stabbing a woman standing in front of him. What followed was a tense fight in the cramped space. Like a warrior, Elyas used every object in the vehicle to take down each enemy, never faltering despite facing multiple opponents. When the chaos subsided, Elyas rolled up the sleeve of one man and discovered a distinct bite mark, confirming him as the mercenary who had been attacked by the dog. After the incident, the group resumed their journey and arrived at the coastal border. Shortly after, their guide appeared, driving a truck equipped with a forklift hidden inside the trailer to conceal people smuggling themselves in a secret compartment. Noah, upon seeing the confined space in the trailer, turned pale with fear. She suffered from severe claustrophobia. Only after Elyas promised to stay by her side did Noah muster the courage to enter the compartment. To ensure safety, Yan decided to follow behind in a separate car. Once the secret compartment was sealed by the forklift, the group began their journey. As they approached the Channel Tunnel, the truck suddenly stopped. Elyas initially thought it was a customs inspection, but the secret compartment was abruptly opened, and bright lights shone inside. Noah immediately sensed some not on the spot. Two mercenaries at the front unleashed a hail of bullets into the compartment, capturing Noah and loading her into another vehicle, while Yan was also subdued. Sometime later, Elyas awoke to thick smoke surrounding him. He removed his bulletproof vest and realized he was surrounded by fire and chaos. Elyas quickly drove the truck through the flames, witnessing another vehicle consumed by a massive explosion. Meanwhile, the mercenary leader Elyas had escaped. He tied Yan to a chair and interrogated him about Elyas's whereabouts. Knowing he wouldn't survive, Yan told him Elyas's story. Years ago, on the battlefield, Elyas's best friend was captured by the enemy. To save him, Elyas voluntarily surrendered, but a month later, the military had endured during that time, only that he suffered severe psychological trauma and could no longer continue fighting. The actions of the mercenaries had reignited the fire of combat, a deadly force. The leader initially didn't believe it, but, after reviewing Elyas's combat records, realized he was up against a living nightmare. He immediately executed Yan and ordered his forces to prepare for a deadly confrontation. Unaware of these developments, Elyas sought out an old comrade for help. Using a tablet, he gathered information about the building where Noah was being held and devised a plan to parachute in. Without hesitation, his comrade took him to the skies. As night pulled Elyas off course briefly, but he quickly regained control. Ready for the mission, Elyas plummeted toward the building and deployed his parachute just in time. Landing safely, he swiftly assembled his weapons, donned night vision goggles, and began descending through the building. Using a gun capable of curved shots, Elyas destroyed security cameras before pinpointing Noah's location via the surveillance system. He maneuvered through stairwells, evading and neutralizing guards rushing to check 1. He opened the door to find Noah. As they prepared to leave, the blaring sound of an alarm filled the air, and steel shutters began sealing off the entire building. Elyas realized a massive fight was imminent. He told Noah to stay close and quickly guided her into an elevator. However, the elevator controls had been overridden, preventing it from moving upward. Noah recalled another route to the rooftop from her father's office. Elyas hoisted her onto his back and headed toward it, but the two were pursued relentlessly without hesitation. Elyas pressed forward, his eyes filled with determination. His footsteps echoed through the dark corridors as Noah clung Noah. Elyas was exhausted and gradually losing his advantage, struggled but couldn't break free, explaining that her father's death would lead to serious political consequences. She pulled Elyas outside and led him to the rooftop. There, Elyas strapped a jetpack onto his back and put a protective suit on Noah. The two jumped off the building, deploying parachutes, and disappeared into the night. Sometime later, Elyas took Noah to her edited surveillance footage to the media, clearing Elyas of his false accusations. She was also accepted into a local school and began the peaceful life she had always longed for. After seeing Noah through the school gates, Elyas got into a taxi to complete his final mission. He climbed to the wall and aimed at the mercenaries, including their leader, who were preparing to flee. 3 precise shots rang out, and everything finally came to an end.